Welcome to Digitized Spotlight, your lens into the best builders in consumer crypto. I'm Amanda.
And I'm Winnie. On this series, we explore the latest trends emerging in consumer crypto and chat with those building at the forefront. In this episode, we dive into Web3 gaming, a space that's gotten increased attention over the past few months.
We chat with Anton, the founder of Sleepagotchi, a mobile app that helps gamify sleep via digital collectibles. I've been using Sleepagotchi for the past year to track my sleep, and I've enjoyed collecting rewards and building out digital bedrooms on the app. So I'm excited to learn more from Anton. Hi, Anton.
Hey, Anton.
It's great to have you on this episode of Digitized Spotlight.
Yeah, likewise. Pleasure to be here.
Awesome. So yeah, we would love to learn more about what you're building at Sleepagotchi.
Awesome. Yeah. So Sleepagotchi is a NFT for a sleep game. We help people improve their sleep through the use of different gamification mechanisms, including Web3 gamification. So we are now more than 1 year old and still building, still in the build mode. We have very cute graphics, kawaii graphics, and quite a good audience and community, especially sort of large in Japan, and then in South Korea and Taiwan and the US. I know you guys are also an investor of ours, so glad to have you on board as well.
Yeah, Sleepagotchi seems to definitely have attracted a lot of users around the world. You even mentioned Japan, South Korea. Do you have an idea why that is? And, how has it appealed to non-crypto natives? How people kind of discovered it organically? Would love to understand your community and how you've grown your user base.
Yeah, sure. So we think it's Japan for three reasons. One is that there's a good early adopter community in Japan for different Web3 projects. I think in general, like Japan is quite good in adopting some of the new Web3 mentality. I think like even their like prime minister mentioned, Web3 is part of their national strategy. Second part is that our graphics are very kawaii focused. They are like inspired by the cute Japanese art style. It's kind of cute that the Japanese consumer loves. And the third point is I think we noticed in the data that Japan sleeps the least. Like they sleep on average 6 hours 15 minutes per day, whereas everybody else sleeps for like 7 hours 15 minutes per day. So it's also like a natural health and like a national health concern for them, and a lot of people care about sleep.
That's super interesting. And I guess in terms of other than Japan, how do you think your user base is kind of spread out across other areas, and how have you kind of grown that organically?
Yeah, so we have, Japan was sort of one of the largest ones that we have. Apologies. And Japan was the largest one that we have, followed by South Korea, US, and France. We sort of grew organically at first by targeting the Twitter communities of Web3, of people who are like active in StepIn, people who are like active in the Web3 gaming ecosystem. And we didn't spend like $1 on marketing, more like, the original kind of growth hacks, as you might call it, is like us trying to find different conversations about tokenomics and like the Web3 incentive models on Twitter, like people arguing, oh, it's not sustainable, oh, it's not possible to do, oh, it's all like it's all gonna collapse. Us like inserting ourselves into the conversation, saying, hey, we think those games are sustainable, games like A, B, and C. And by the way, we also think we are sustainable as well. So we kind of really tried to get into the quality discussions early on.
And building on what you're saying around gamification and the sustainability, you actually come from a Web2 background where you were working at Duolingo. Curious what learnings you had there and how that's influenced how you're designing Sleepagotchi.
Yeah, so I indeed had quite a brief stint at Duolingo in the project management team, focused on the streak. I think like in general, like Duolingo has an amazing company culture. So I've really been impressed by every team member there and how they approach the problems and what sort of talent they're able to attract. The second point, which was also learning, is that Duolingo is not a gaming company per se. So they are really a tech company focused on language learning, and then they apply on top of it gamification techniques like leaderboards, streaks, social dynamics, etc. Whereas, for example, for Sleepagotchi, we started off thinking ourselves as a sleep company with a little bit of gamification added on that, but soon realized that we need to be much more of a game, because in Duolingo, for business model for Duolingo to survive, you need to sell more languages, kind of more in-depth language learning. There's just basically an infinite canvas on how much infinite opportunities for them to really add value in terms of language learning. For Sleepagotchi, you sort of sleep, you go to bed at the same time, you wake up at the same time. Well, that's it, right? That's you mastered sleep. Congrats. Now and that's why we would like people to keep using Sleepagotchi from a game perspective, and to really get engaged in the story and the characters and the RPG elements and other collectible items. So that's why I think early on in our company we realized we need to be as a gaming company and really change the DNA of the company towards seeing ourselves as a game company rather than a tech company.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And then why Web3 and NFTs and incorporating that in the gamification of Sleepagotchi?
Yeah, so we really wanted some people to potentially get some income from their sleep in a sustainable way, right? And the way we thought about it is that if we think about NFTs as people in Sleepagotchi start the day with Sleepagotchi. So this is the first thing they open in the morning. It's kind of a nice, wonderful experience of opening potentially something valuable in the morning. And what can be valuable? It can be valuable, for example, by it having liquidity somewhere on other marketplaces, on OpenSea, on Glore, etc. So rather than us building an exchange for those assets, rather than us providing liquidity and having to do all the KYC, all the exchanges, we pragmatically connect to the API called blockchain, right? And they just mint those NFTs, and then they are free to trade on other exchanges, where we can then ourselves provide the liquidity and make sure there's a floor price for some of the NFTs that we give out to people as a reward. So for us, it's kind of a distribution. It's a distribution mechanism. It's kind of, I got $10 for my sleep. Can you believe it? It's also for us a retention mechanism, because people would like to open up, and then someday, if they're lucky, they're going to get something potentially of value inside the reward.
Yeah, I love that. I think one thing I'm always very curious about is kind of the tokenomics for some of these consumer crypto applications like Sleepagotchi. I think in the last few years, we've definitely seen a few iterations and cycles of kind of this type of token design, right? We had the era of Axie and STEPN. Right now, you have Blackbird. I guess as you guys kind of design your tokenomics, your NFTs, how do you think about some of the mechanics there and what's important to you? What are some lessons learned from the past cycles, from existing projects that you do like, and what are things that you guys are kind of iterating upon and improving?
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the biggest lessons is that a lot of those crypto consumer apps tend to be very short-lived, right? If they don't balance out their tokenomics correctly or the incentives correctly, they attract a lot of Web3 hunters who just jam in, use the app, and then they disappear.
I remember there were days where I would walk 2 blocks and be earning $100 on STEPN.
Yeah, wonderful days, but sadly
I do miss it.
Yeah, sadly not sustainable for long term. And we think that and exactly, I think those are the early learnings of the space. You kind of learn from others people and from other projects as well. What we think we are a little bit different is from a sustainability perspective, we focus on NFTs, and we don't give everybody an NFT straight away. Not everybody gets a financial asset that they can liquidate. It's reserved for more power users, for people who are kind of using the project meaningfully. And rather than 100% of users getting a reward, we kind of limited it more to, we plan to limit it more towards a single-digit percentage of users who are getting it. For the second one as well is if you think about what fun is and sustainable fun is. So for walking and for other activities, $100 a day would be not sustainable. Something like a sustainable figure would be something like maybe 10 cents. If you do the math, I think around 10 cents, you can probably make a case for 10, 20 cents per day. But then it's not fun, right? It's not fun for a consumer to I'll be using this app all day and I may do 10 cents today, 10 cents tomorrow, 10 cents 3 days from now. But what if you, rather than having 10 cents every day, you sort of aggregate the rewards in some days. So it's for example, $1 today and then a 0 tomorrow. And then suddenly the game stops feeling like work. your income is very, very variable. And two, there's also now variance in the rewards you're getting. And this also is a source of fun. Like in games is always fun because you're always getting zero and then you're getting something. So similar for us for Sleepagotchi, we want you to, we think that you're going to earn like 0, 0, 0. And then like on day, 43, suddenly you're going to get $10, for example, right? By a lucky Dropbox in the morning. And this will be enough for us to have you kind of using Sleepagotchi. This we believe is also a sustainable model for us.
That makes sense on the user side. I guess on the other side of like, what is the demand for the token? Can you elaborate a little bit about that?
So we still the tokenomics, we are sort of not announcing everything that we have
Got
planned
it. Yeah.
or not planned for the tokenomics side. In terms of for the NFT side, there are three value sources. One is there's purely cosmetic value from a rare perspective, like it looks cool, you showcase it to your friends. It's quite a social game that we are building inside Sleepagotchi. Second point, there's a utility value as well. Like if you get a certain NFT item, you progress fast inside the game. And the third one that we are also will implement is we would like to provide our own liquidity, so a revenue sharing with users from the NFTs. So rather than paying like 10K for Facebook or TikTok or Instagram or etc. for marketing, we can simply market make our own NFTs on the marketplace and actually acquire users without the middleman being Facebook or another kind of social network, for example.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Particularly the social elements of how you're thinking about the token and just the overall gameplay going forward. Can you elaborate a bit more on like what are the current social components of the app and where do you plan to take that going forward?
So we've been experimenting with quite a few social components. We have profiles, we have shareable profiles. We are working on leaderboards so that people can leaderboard. We are working on clans so that people can join together with their characters or track their sleep together. We noticed that a lot of families like to track their sleep together. So it's gonna be like boyfriend and girlfriend, husband and wife, or children and their family, of the older family members track their sleep together. So we're building like features specifically for those sets of users. And we're also working on multiplayer components. So it's kind of, you send your dine on adventure, the better you sleep, the better your character progresses better, and you can complete joint missions together. So you think a bit about it as an online game where the sleep of yours and a few friends matters.
I love that, especially in the time of like January, New Year's resolutions. I feel like everyone is trying to improve their health and wellness. It's interesting because with Whoop, I always like screenshot my sleep and like send it to like my partner or my friends when it's like either really good or really bad. So it's like there actually is like some kind of like social element to tracking and sharing your sleep, which is super interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's something like of a recent phenomena, right? It's I think only like in the last couple of years, really the whoops and auras and
Yeah.
the sleep really started entering the zeitgeist of our age, and people are stat maxing their sleep, for example, right? So suddenly people are like, oh, I have like a higher sleep score than you, for example,
Yeah.
which would never be a conversation 5 years ago, right? So that's why
Yeah.
our products like ours can be possible today because of the cultural shift, because people are like, oh, it's not cool to hustle and sleep 4 hours
Yeah.
a night anymore. Now it's cool to sleep 8 hours a day.
Exactly. And I feel like things like 8 sleep and the recent, tech trend of like kind of tracking all the sleep and longevity, the Venn diagram of the longevity crew and the tech crew, there's probably a lot of like overlap there.
Oh yeah, definitely. And those are early adopters, right? So of many trends. The tech crew, I think, was one of the early ones to recognize the potential of crypto and Web3. And similarly here, I think that we'll only see the expansion of the space going forward. I think the space of sleep tech is expected to 5x over the next 10 years.
Wow. I had no idea that it's growing so much. I guess one thing that I've been thinking about is so I've been using Sleepagotchi for the past year, and I've sort of seen it go through various iterations, including your recent Sleepagotchi 2.0. Um, would love to kind of see what are the and talk through with our audience, like what are the key improvements in 2.0? What should we be looking forward to? Is there a 3.0? Would love to kind of get a better sense of how you've been evolving the game.
Yeah, so the way we develop the game and the way we kind of release cycle of the game as well is and the 2.0 release in September is we started the development in summer 2022 of Sleepagotchi, and it was like bootstrapped. It was built like not in a literal garage, but it was built in a few bedrooms around the world. And then we started getting traction. We were able to secure funding from different investors on proving this hypothesis that there is interest on this, that we can build this out further. And we completed our first fundraise then last autumn, like autumn in 2022. And then for the next kind of 9 months, we've been assembling the team, um, laying out the vision for Sleepagotchi so that it's not a game for like 2 weeks, 2 months. It's actually a game that lasts you for a lifetime, right? Because you use sleep trackers for a lifetime. You want to use Sleepagotchi for a lifetime. So we've been, adding different core loops, adding like kind of really cool graphics to the game, and to making sure that our infrastructure scales up. So with the September, we then released like this is kind of the first kind of stepping stone towards this larger vision of like what Sleepagotchi will become. And it's a building block of this, by no means the final game, and we are working very actively on the actual Tamagotchi side of the Sleepagotchi element. So right now it's just furniture collection and base building game, but we are working on the fact that you can send your dino, your character on adventures, you can level your character up. There is going to be a story inside Sleepagotchi that you'll be able to follow and impact with your sleep. So and we are taking like a kind of an iterative approach towards building it out.
Makes sense. And then I guess if you think a little bit further out, so like 5 years from now, 10 years from now, what does the Sleepagotchi ecosystem look like, and how will the game and evolve, I guess, between now and then?
So we will have 1 million plus daily active users, in a few years from now, with millions of users around the world using this app to track their sleep and keep it in good discipline, to share it with their friends and family, and potentially colleagues. Sometimes colleagues, at least on our team, share their sleep together, like how they slept. And we are it's a major title in the App Store ecosystem. And then going forward, we have two areas where we can then double down on the game. We can either go more into sleep, like potentially design our own sleep trackers, potentially really like expand into the sleep ecosystem, or we can apply the same learnings towards other gamification, or of those gamification towards other verticals, like walking, running, dieting, and other kind of healthy habits.
Yeah, no, I like that, especially with like wearables now. One thing I think about, like, the promise and the ability for crypto to incentivize like better behaviors is like, how can you kind of tokenize some of those other, trends and metrics? For example, I think steps is what kind of Step In originally did. But what's more interesting is like heart rate, right? Like, how can you tokenize heart rate? How can you like tokenize sleep with Sleepagotchi? So I think what you just said is definitely very interesting. Definitely excited to see what direction you kind of bring it to.
I think there's a lot of stuff there are many ways where we can take the product forward. So to every user who's using Sleepagotchi, I only recommend, staying with us and extending the streak, because the streak is gonna impact some rewards later on.
Cool. I think we can kind of close this out with a few rapid fire questions. So Anton, what's your favorite crypto game?
Favorite crypto game is gonna be Nouns. So it's not a game, but
Yeah.
I just love the concept of Nouns on the live auction house and a daily random. So it's like a very gamified NFT auction place.
What's a habit that you would like to see gamified?
Ooh, I think that healthy eating, should be gamified in a better way. Like I think like Noom and MyFitnessPal, they're a little bit too serious.
Yeah. And what's a room design that you like the most in the app?
Sushi room. We have a room where the bed is a nigiri sushi, where the carpet is
Yeah.
is a mat for cutting sushi. So
Maybe we can post a screenshot of the sushi room for others to kind of look at it when we edit this. So
yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Well, Anton, it's been great to have you on Digitized Spotlight. To end this out, where can listeners find you and learn more about Sleepagotchi?
Go on sleepagotchi.com or follow us and download us on Play Store or App Store, or follow us on Twitter also at Sleepagotchi.
Awesome. Thank you.
Cool.
Awesome.
Thank you. This was so
Thanks a
fun.
lot.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thanks for joining us as we chat with Anton. It's been interesting to learn more about Sleepagotchi's unique approach to incorporating crypto into habit gamification.
Agreed. It's so awesome to see crypto-powered apps unlock new use cases and appeal to mass consumer audiences. Follow us as we chat with more founders building at the intersection of consumer and crypto.